How quickly do landlords have to respond to a repair request or an issue that needs fixing at a property? Now, there's a really important phrase that I want every single landlord to know, and that is reasonable time. Now, that sounds so general, so vague, but it is actually really important, because if you ever have an issue where you've got to stand in front of a judge and explain how quickly you resolved a problem for a tenant or how long it took you to fix an issue with the property, you have to prove that it took a reasonable amount of time. But what exactly does that mean? I want you to put yourself in the tenant's shoes for a second. Now, yes, you are the landlord and you probably have contractors that work for you on the property, and you can call them, you can send them out to the property to fix issues. However, put yourself in the tenant's shoes now. If they had that same issue themselves, how quickly could they fix their own problem? It has to be a reasonable time. So if you're a landlord and your tenant reports to you that their boiler has stopped working and you need to send a plumber or a heating engineer to the property to fix it, if you can't get a plumber out to that property the same day, then what difference would there be if a tenant was trying to do the same on their own? If you contacted a load of plumbers and they said, I can only get there tomorrow, then it would be likely and fair to assume that the tenant would have the same challenges. Similar to that, if you send a plumber or a heating engineer to the property and that same person says, I can fix the problem, but I need to order a specific part in order to repair the problem, then it would be the same problem for the tenant if they owned the property or they had to fix the problem themselves. So therefore, what that means is, if that plumber or heating engineer says it's going to take 2 days to fix that problem, then that is a reasonable amount of time. And that would be the same for the tenants, the same for the landlord, same for me, same for my mum, same for everybody. So that is the term, reasonable time. Could the tenant fix that same problem any quicker reasonably? Now, that might be different if the tenant is a contractor themselves, but that's an unusual situation. That's an unusual circumstance. So that's the key phrase. Did you fix that issue within a reasonable time frame? If you can honestly answer yes, then you have repaired that problem correctly. Then there's the question of, if a problem such as the boiler's not working, if that problem is going to take more than a couple of days to fix, then what are your responsibilities as a landlord to provide that tenant with alternative accommodation? Now, I will go into this in a bit more detail in another video, but what I would say is it's the same term, a reasonable time frame. If you are going to take a unreasonable time frame to repair that problem, then yes, a judge would probably insist that you put that tenant into alternative accommodation whilst you repair that problem. Actually, for the majority of times, it's at the landlord's discretion. Now, there are more serious issues than that, which is why I'm going to go into that in more detail on another video, because there are actually a lot of circumstances where, yes, you, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, would need to put that tenant into alternative accommodation, even if you can only repair an issue within a reasonable time frame. But generally, on your most basic and common issues, if you repair the issue within a reasonable time, then that is enough to ensure that you are compliant. Now I'm going to bring a different dimension into this, because there's a moral aspect to this, isn't there? Because you as landlords, myself included, we have an obligation to be responsible housing providers. Now, if because of a problem with our boiler, our property, whatever it might be, that tenant is unable to live in that property is now uninhabitable, then I have a moral obligation to ensure that my tenant, who is my paying customer, and I want to secure them and make them comfortable and stay long term, then I would probably seriously consider putting them up in alternative accommodation whilst a problem is being fixed. And that would be in a case where that property becomes uninhabitable, or whether that property is technically habitable but not suitably habitable. Hopefully that makes sense. But look, I will go into a lot more detail about that in a different video, but you get what I'm saying, I hope. Be honest with yourself. Be honest about whether you think that problem is going to be or has been completed and fixed and repaired in a reasonable time frame. Of course, it goes without saying, if you would like to discuss the management of your property, my letting agency, which is based in Portsmouth and surrounding areas, will provide either a hands-off management service, meaning you can be a hands-off landlord, or as I like to call it, an anonymous landlord, or you can have a more involved role while we manage that property. It's entirely up to you. We will tailor the entire management service to suit you. I think that's the most important thing for a managing agent to do, because every landlord is different. Some people want to know the ins and outs of every single thing that goes on at all times, and other landlords want to be hands off and want to be not involved to save their own time. I'm very much an anonymous landlord, but I've got landlord clients that want to talk to the letting agent a lot, want to be informed and kept up to date on every single thing that happens at all times. Neither is right or wrong. So if you would like to discuss your management options with me or with my lettings team, then let's have a chat. It's free to find out. All you need to do is contact me. My email address is tom@soanegroup.co.uk. Soane Group is my group of companies, which is lettings, sales, mortgages, and buy-to-let. If you would like to have a conversation, email me, or you can message me through my Facebook page, or if you comment somewhere here, then I will send you my contact details then. Hopefully we get a chance to talk. If you're not going to become a customer of mine, then I just want to make sure you get this all right. Hope that helps. Speak to you soon.